Hey, Inspired Moneymaker. Today we get doubly good tips on financial independence and twice the advice on retiring early. We're talking with the Wealth Twins. Episode 223 features Nadia Busseuil and Nicole Carter, entrepreneurs, millionaires, the Wealth Twins.
I define wealth by if your lifestyle and your money is managed in a way that you are overall happy, then you're wealthy to me. It doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars or a couple of $100,000. If it supports the lifestyle you want and you're happy, then that's wealth in my opinion.
For me, I just focus on net worth. Try to keep growing in net worth. So that means getting out of debt, focusing on collecting assets and cash, and just trying to build it up. So you don't have to necessarily be a millionaire, but if you focus on your net worth, you're going to increase your wealth.
I'm Andy Wong, host of the Inspired Money podcast and financial advisor at Runnymede Capital Management. Our guests are Nadia and Nicole, women of color who can serve as financial role models for all of us. Their story is inspiring. From growing up in New York City government housing to graduating from an Ivy League college together. They both built careers starting at Goldman Sachs and did well climbing the corporate ladder. You're going to hear a lot of financial lessons, including leaving corporate and creating the Wealth Twins, a personal finance blog and YouTube channel to help others. In this episode, you'll learn great financial advice for achieving financial independence, investing in dividend stocks and real estate, and make sure you listen to the end to hear Nicole's evolving thinking about college. Now let's get inspired with Nadia Busseuil and Nicole Carter. Nicole and Nadia, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having us, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. We're excited to be here too.
Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
Well, Nicole, I'll take at least my memory.
Okay.
I guess it's when my mother used to give us $3 a day before we would head off to school. And I always wondered why $3, but we would keep $1 because she told us, make sure you keep $1 in your pocket because you'll always be able to get home or make a phone call. I don't know how true that is now. You probably can't do that, but that was just something that stuck with me when I was younger, and I always kept $1 in my wallet.
I would think for me, it's also with my mother. She used to work for a company called Off Track Betting, so OTB for short. And on Sundays, it was a cash business at the time, and she would bring home silver certificates. I'm not sure if you know what those are. They were $5 bills, dollar bills that weren't backed before we were dollar backed, we were gold backed. Some of the currency was actually silver backed. So we would have silver certificates. So she would bring home like a $5 silver certificate or a $10 silver certificate and actually $2 bills. So I always thought that was, something special. And I think that was probably my first money memory.
Yep. I still have those bills.
I want those, by the way.
I remember the OTB commercials.
Oh, really?
Well, I've never seen the commercial for it. I just remember just visiting people.
Yeah.
They would always give us money when we walked in.
Yeah, and I still remember all the, the Triple Crown. I always knew when it was a big race happening. So I still get excited when the Kentucky Derby comes around or the Preakness comes around,
Yeah.
You guys grew up in the projects. What was that like? Like, what were some of the important money lessons that you learned growing up from your mom?
Ooh. There were some negative ones and positive ones, I would say. One thing that I knew that my mother always worked. She worked 7 days a week. So I think one money lesson that we learned was that you work to get money, Nothing was ever handed to us. But then we also noticed that she dealt a lot with cash. She didn't have a bank account. And that, living in the projects, you were thinking, okay, there was no such thing as a bank account in our world at that time. So you just dealt with the cash you had, and whatever cash was there, if it was gone, that was it. So I would think for me, it was more of like whatever cash you had was the money you had. So it was no savings or things like that. And I think that had to do with her not knowing much about managing money past a paycheck.
Yeah. Well, instead of calling the projects, let's call it government housing. Maybe so some people may be sensitive, but I think one of the things we learned, you see a lot of hardworking people there, and I think there's a kind of misunderstanding that people think if you live in government housing, you're not a hard worker or stereotype. But there's a lot of hardworking people there, and we grew up in New York City. It's a high cost of living city, and my mother was raising us by herself mainly, and we're the last out of 6 children, you know. So one of the things we learned was education was very important if you wanted to change your living circumstances, because maybe sometimes the jobs weren't paying a lot, but you had the potential to get a high paying job if you did well in school. And that was one of the things that motivated us to really excel in education and really push ourselves.
You guys both did well in school. I know that you both went to Columbia University. When you were growing up, did you ever have doubts that you wouldn't be able to get out of the government housing, like get out of the neighborhood? Or did you have like a certainty that you knew where you were going?
I will tell you one thing. I never had a doubt that I was leaving. I think one thing growing up in those circumstances, you build a lot of grit. And one of the things that happened, we went to school outside of our neighborhood. And we saw children who had better neighborhoods that they were raised in. But one thing is that we had a lot of confidence ourselves. So if we said, look, we're doing well here, we can do well anywhere. And I'm determined, and this is what's going to take me. We had a lot of self-confidence and a lot of self-determination.
You know, I agree with Nadia. It was never a doubt that we were getting out. And I think I would have to attribute that to my mother, too, because like Nadia said, we're the last out of 6. And we were actually bussed out and went to public school in a middle-class neighborhood. And we were in those classes because we were doing well in school. We were in the gifted and talented class, they would call it now. And we were surrounded by children who going to college was not an option. Like, it was just something they were going to do. So being exposed to that mentality and that type of environment, it was just a given that we were going to go to college. It just
at a very young age.
Yeah, it was just like, where are we going to college? You know, so that exposure kind of outweighed the environment where we were. We didn't really hang outside in the neighborhood we were. We would mainly go to school, come back into the house. So the only thing we knew was what we learned at school.
Where was that school? You guys, there were a lot of immigrants in that school?
Yeah, if you know anything, well, we grew up in Queens. So Queens is probably one of the if not the most diverse place in the world.
Yeah, they say Manhattan is, but it's actually Queens.
It's Queens. But it was in Willets Point and College Point, Queens. So it's probably like 45 minutes to an hour away from where we grew up in Jamaica, Queens.
Well, I know
it was a high immigrant population there, too.
If you go to Flushing, I feel like I'm not in the United States anymore.
Oh, we went through Flushing every day.
I can tell you some of the best places you can go to in Flushing, Queens. You know, we were there almost every day. So, yeah, you had a lot of Asian influence, a lot of Colombian influence, a lot of Greek influence, Italian. And because we also were not the only children bussed out, we did have African Americans around us too. But I think most of the time, Nadia and I were the only African Americans in the class, I would say.
I hear that having a twin can be good for friendly competition too.
Oh, yeah.
We are our biggest competitors. Sometimes we're not too friendly to each other, but most of the time we are friendly. We push each other to reach our best.
Nadia was actually the one that started doing well in school first. And then it was like, well, if Nadia can do it, Nicole, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, gosh, I guess I got to, step up my grades and actually, participate in school. So I guess that competition made me start doing better in school. So, yeah.
Were there things that you needed to unlearn from your past, money-wise?
That's a good question. Let me think about that. What would you say, Nadia?
I would think not so much unlearn. There was a lot of things we needed to learn, but there was a lot of lessons that we took that said, oh, I see what's happening over here. I don't want that for myself, So it's not so much as unlearning. It's more of take this lesson and use it for your future. You don't want to end up this way. Make sure you save money. Make sure there's a way that you manage it so that you're not short at the end of the week or at the end of the month. Or just make sure that you're able to take care of necessary essentials so that you're never for want, you know?
I would also say it wasn't like Nadia said, I wouldn't say unlearn. I actually think some of the lessons we learned early on from living in a poor neighborhood actually helped us out even today. We know how to, live on much less. We don't get, very much into a lot of luxury goods or things like that. So we're not scared to take chances because we know how it is if you lost all your money, what it's actually like. So it's not something we hold on to that we go, I can't let this lifestyle go. So I think that was a blessing in disguise to say, okay, we grew up with nothing, so we know what it's like. It's not a scary phenomenon for us. And I think too, one thing I wished I would have learned earlier was to learn how to get a career rather than a job. Most people we were around had jobs. So if you lost a job, you can get another job. But taking that career and saying, I'm going to increase, I'm going to go up in that career, that's something we didn't learn until later on. And I think that affects money.
Yeah, I would say. And then growing up, we're generally frugal people. Like Nicole and I are not into materialistic things. If you see us, you'll see us like mostly in t-shirts or jeans. And that's something that we picked up from our upbringing too, because we saw our mother working very hard, so we never asked her for expensive things, and it helped us out as adults because you're not impressed by cars or clothing. It's like, well, those are not the things that matter.
Well,
We
I
have
was
other
impressed,
priorities.
but my mother said no so many times. You start going, oh, okay.
She beat it
Yeah,
out
I
of you.
guess it doesn't matter.
She beat it out of
doesn't
us.
matter.
You're not getting that. Okay.
When did you folks reach financial independence in your minds?
In our minds or
Well,
actually?
both. Okay, both. Since it's different.
Well, in my mind, I think I reached it probably a few years after college, like when my school loans were paid off and I lived in an apartment where I was paying a lot less than my friends were working. So I said, you know what? If I lost my job today, I can get a job that pays less and still be okay. So I guess at that point, it was like financially independent in my mind. It's like, okay, I can really do what I want because I have more than enough money coming in that my expenses are low enough to handle it, right? When I actually became financially independent, I would say in my mid-30s. And that's after I became a landlord and we started investing more, and really when I started to look to have a family.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be when one of my savings outweighed my expenses, where I had enough saved. I was like, okay, I can relax for a few years and not worry about it. And then working was no longer, I have to go to work. It was optional. So I would say that was probably my mid-30s too.
You guys both went to Columbia University. You both worked at Goldman Sachs. What are the odds that twins can do that together?
I would think it was pretty high. No,
pretty high,
we're in
yeah.
the same environment. We have the same friends. We're pretty similar. Sometimes I wish we weren't so similar. I wish Nicole was more creative than I am. Neither one of us are good at interior decorating or anything with color. But I think we followed the same path. So if you looked at our school and our education trajectory and like our ambitions and our just like hobbies, they're pretty similar. So I guess our paths just like kept going the same way for a while.
No, it was funny that I thought I was going to a different school. I had gotten into NYU along with Columbia, and the only reason why I didn't take NYU over Columbia is because we received more financial aid. So it was cheaper for us both to go to Columbia than it was to split us apart. And then when it came to going to Goldman, I actually did not want to work with Nadia. And I said, okay, I'm going to break off. And I got another job offer where I was going to be an oil trader. But the only thing that stopped me from that was that the location of the oil trading company was out of state. And I was afraid that I would have to drive too much. And being a native New Yorker, I got my license very late. So I was like, I guess I'm going to Goldman, And then from then on, I was like, you know what? I can't get rid of this one. So let's see how it goes. But it definitely wasn't fun for people who were around us, I guess. I guess it made fun because first people thought we were either crazy or they thought they were crazy because they kept seeing a person
Yeah.
move from one place to the next so quickly
Or change our clothes because they thought we had a personality disorder.
Yeah.
So like, why are you changing your clothes? And how did you get over here so fast?
Yeah. And we also would confuse some of the clients because Nadia was on the broker-dealer side. I was on the asset management side. And sometimes we would talk to the same client and they wouldn't realize that we were twins, but they knew that we sound just alike over the phone. And then they realized, wait a minute, you guys are twins. You've been confusing me this whole time. So it turned out to be a fun experience too.
Yeah, it was plenty of times we had to flash our ID to tell people, look, I'm not her. Look, this is an actual ID. We're twins.
Yeah.
It's funny. Well, Nicole said like a true New Yorker having to take a job because of the transportation. I don't want to drive. That could be dangerous.
Exactly. I had my Metro card. That's all I needed.
And it's funny, as big as New York is, or as populous as it is, I'm sure that you guys bump into coworkers like all over the place and confuse people.
Several.
Out to dinner, there were a couple people that would just stop me. Or I remember being on a train one time and a guy kicks me and I'm like,
he kicked your foot.
He kicked my foot. I was like, what's going on here? And he's like, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, I don't know who you are. And he's like, Nadia, you don't recognize me? I was like, oh, okay. Sorry. Now I have to explain this story to you.
I had a manager who was speaking to me on the phone and he was walking in Midtown. And then Nicole walks past him as she's going to lunch. And he goes, what just happened? Like, he's like, I'm talking to you, but I see someone who looks exactly like you just walked past me. I'm like, oh, you must have just seen Nicole. She's on 50-something street right now. He's like, that's crazy.
That is so funny. Nicole, I understand that you got some really good investing advice from a coworker when you were in your early 20s. Can you talk about that?
There was probably two, I would say. One would have been from my manager at the time. I was like maybe 21. And he said, Nicole, do you know about compounding? And I said, no. He's like, well, I'm going to explain this to you and I'm going to tell you about a 401k at the same time. Because at the time, I wasn't in my 401k because I was like, I'm 21 years old. Why do I have to worry about retirement or anything? But he made a simple spreadsheet where he explained compounding to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, it can grow like that? And I said, as soon as he told me that, I opened up the account and then I called Nadia and said, Nadia, we got to do this 401k. And compounding is amazing, And then I had another coworker who, she was very simple in terms of living. She was from the South and she was much older. She was about close to her 60s at the time when I started working with her. And he said, Nicole, I'm going to tell you one simple thing. Whenever you make $1, save at least 10%, save a dime. And she just made it so simple for me to understand that. I said, okay, I can do that. And that was one of the best pieces of advice that anyone had ever given me. And she just did it off the cuff one day. And it just helped me out so much. I think one of the reasons why it helped me out because right after, maybe a few months after that conversation, there was a round of layoffs that were happening because a big recession had come through. And she was one of the coworkers asking to be laid off while others were, nervous or scared to be let go. And I said, wow, she wants to be given a package. I have to listen to her. Her name was Pearl. I said, I have to listen to Pearl because she's doing something right that others might not be doing. So I'm going to take that simple advice and I'm going to keep doing what Pearl told me to do. So it definitely helped me.
And then, Nadia, how were you influenced by Nicole telling you, we have to participate in our 401k? Check this out.
I jumped right on it. I was like, okay, well, if you're going to do it, I might as well do it too. Let's start taking a percentage out of our paycheck. I think I started at 5 or 6% just to get the match at one point, and then I started upping it to 15%. And then I think that same week I had walked by my manager's desk and happened to look at his screen when he had his 401k up, and he took it down quickly. But I'm like, there's a lot of zeros in that. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to up this now. Okay. But yeah, it was a very good thing to follow her on because starting so young, it just puts you ahead of the game and you don't really feel it when you're young. And my thing is, I'd rather suffer when I'm young than when I'm older so I can make those sacrifices now so I won't have to make them later on in life.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that we might not have appreciated at Goldman at the beginning, but looking back, it gave us exposure to people in terms of what their money habits were and people who thought about money outside for their personal business. So that definitely was something that a lot of people don't get from a manager that's going to take you aside and teach you about compounding, 401ks. So I definitely appreciated that. But then on the other hand, you have the layoffs because it's a very, volatile environment. So you get to see two things up close and you're like, okay, how can this affect me? And if you learn at a very young age, you start planning, you can plan accordingly or try your best to.
Now, being frugal at Goldman, do you fit in or are you very different?
There's a lot of big spenders there, I will say. But you just learn to hang out with the older people so you don't have to pull out your credit card. They'll spend it on you.
That is true. I would say the younger guys at Goldman spend more money than the older guys at Goldman. And the older guys at Goldman make more money. So it's like the older you get, the less money you spend and the less you flash. But the younger you are, you're definitely a party type of person that's spending some money.
Yeah, but I was always with the older guys, and they're like, "Nadia, we're going to the bar." They'll throw a bunch of cash in the bar. I'm like, "Hey, this works for me."
Good strategy.
I only drink one drink anyway.
So you guys are really good about saving, and I'm sure, well, you mentioned career versus job, Nicole. So it sounds like you just kept making more and banking more.
Yep, exactly. I started to, what I would say, it's probably not the nicest thing. I started becoming loyal to the check rather than a particular company. So I would try to learn skills and build up my skill set so that I can move and make more money. So that's what I started doing. So I said, okay, look, the only way I can get this done is to keep moving and making more money at different companies. And I just kept with that. I told Nadia to keep with it because those recessions that happened, it made me realize that you can work 20 years on a job, but tomorrow you could be let go. So I had to change my perspective and change my loyalty from the company to a paycheck.
But also, to go along with that, we also avoided lifestyle creep also, because we saw a lot of our coworkers, they had kids in private school, they have mortgages. I'm like, if you keep making money and you keep raising your expenses, it doesn't make a difference. You're never going to get ahead, So I'm like, okay, I'll just continue to act like this is how much money I was making my first year. No matter what it was, I'll still live off of this beginning amount. And then everything else will go into savings. And I think that mindset helped put us in a very good position.
Yeah, that lifestyle creep that's serious because I think
it's so easy.
When you live in a city like New York that has a high cost of living, it's so easy, as you said, putting kids through private school and your expenses grow sometimes faster than your paycheck if it's really bad. And there are people who have great careers, but they don't really have much savings.
Yeah, not even just lifestyle creep based on where you live, but who your friends are, because you might try to keep up with the Joneses. It came down to even you had to get the same stroller as a person next to you. If you look in New York City, I can guarantee you most of the people have an upper baby stroller or there's another one, but there's a city stroller. They're the same strollers and maybe a bugaboo.
The same baby carrier.
Yeah, there's like
the same play dates.
It's kind of like a symbol of, oh, this person makes this much money, they have this type of stroller. And I said, I don't want to do this,
I don't remember the name. There was a baby stroller. It looked like a high chair. It looked weird. And it was really expensive.
I think I know which one.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. I don't remember the name.
My wife was tempted. She was thinking about it. And she showed me the picture. I'm like, I don't like the cost. And I don't even want to be seen pushing that thing.
But I'm telling you, if you would have bought it, people would have known right away. Oh, he's that type of guy, makes this type of money.
The thing was like the Land Rover of...
Exactly.
I know exactly. And it was one that you press a button and it compresses down. I'm like, oh, no, it's okay. I'm not getting this.
So you guys, you're the wealth twins today.
Yes.
And that's like a website. That's, I know, a YouTube channel. And I suspect there aren't that many ex-Goldman turned YouTubers. I could be wrong.
I don't know that many.
I don't know.
Tell us a little bit about your journey from corporate to, because I know that you have different businesses and you've tried different things. What has that looked like?
Um, at one point when you don't have to work in the corporate world anymore, you try to figure out what you would like to do and something that you would follow your passion. So Nicole and I have always had a passion about personal finances and helping others like change their life situation. So at one point I had owned a cafe and I would hire people from the surrounding neighborhood to work for me. And I was always trying to give them financial advice like, hey, come on, let's open up a bank account. Let's put your check on direct deposit. Just giving them some kind of insight tip because I know they never had this kind of information before. So we said, you know what? How can we reach people with this message on a larger scale? You and I can do something. The kids are getting older. We can do something that's productive. And at the same time, we can reach a lot of people. So we said, you know what? Let's try Wealth Twins. This is a way that we can be of service to others, give people a different role model than maybe what they're used to, and show that there are women of color who are in this field who can serve as guides for you if you don't have this role model in your life currently.
For me, I always knew I probably wouldn't end up working at a bank forever. That was just not who I was. And because of our life experiences prior to working, our mother passed away when we were quite young. I knew I wanted to do something different and help out more people because I believe one of the reasons my mother died early was because of stress and because of money issues. So, Nadia and I always tried to give back. And then part of me always knew I would be some type of advocate or so. I thought I would be in the UN at one point or a politician. And I said, I just couldn't deal with the bureaucracy. But how can I directly affect people? And I think I just stumbled one day across, let's use social media and let's see how it can help. And the way that we got the response from what we do, either if we're in person talking at different events or, on our YouTube channel, the comments and the emails we get, it shows me that we're making a difference, even if it's just one person at a time. And I think that was something I wanted to do. I always wanted to do something more meaningful and actually help people. And I think this is a great way to do it.
Yeah, we're just starting out.
Do you guys know the finance twins?
Yes, we do. We met them at one point.
Did we meet them at FinCon? We tried to meet up at FinCon.
Yeah, so we were in the same event, but we never got to link up, but we definitely know who the finance twins are.
That's cool. I had Camilo on the show before.
They have a pretty similar background too than us too. I believe he was in Wall Street too.
Yeah, one's a doctor and one is a Wall Street, like former investment banker, entrepreneur, and then turned financial blogger.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about, like, one half of financial independence is living within your means. And in your case, living frugally, which goes a long way. When you're not spending all your money, achieving financial independence becomes much more possible. You also need to make money, right? Or you need to be a good steward of your money. And my understanding is that Nicole has a background in like the asset management side, so stocks. I think Nadia has more experience in some real estate investing. Talk a little bit about the different ways that people can, grow their money while they're sleeping.
Nadia, you want to take that or?
Well, I'll take it from a real estate point of view. One of the ways that I did it was through house hacking. So my goal was to bring in enough passive income that would cover my mortgage and also help me cover expenses. So one of the first deals I did was buy a multifamily property that did both of those things. Like that's what it accomplished. So that was something that really helped me out and really like shot my finances in a way that will allow me to really become financially independent. And at the same time, I can provide affordable housing to people in New York. Like there's a lot of times I can charge way more for rent than I do, but I don't want to do that because it's not necessary for me to make the most I can on my property. It's more about can it sustain me? Can it cover the mortgage? And can I help other people out while providing a safe space to live? And that's my main goal. So that's what I went through with real estate. And when you do something like that and you're bringing in that passive income that covers your biggest expense, which is your mortgage, it makes reaching financial independence a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. And I also have a multifamily too. So we have real estate investments, but when it comes to stock market, we try to teach people to focus on dividends. So many times people focus on, trying to make a big win by picking the next winner. And I believe more in terms of income stability, and I believe dividends provide that. So we try to steer people away from things that are considered risky, like single stocks and options and FX that a lot of people like to talk to us about. And we try to bring them in for people who never even invested before. We tell them, look, index funds, ETFs, or even if you're going to do stocks, focus on dividend stocks to get some type of income that's a passive income, which is the only way to make passive income in the stock market.
Do you lean heavily towards dividend stocks versus growth, meaning stocks that you're hoping will appreciate, but they may not pay a dividend?
Yeah, I typically lean more to dividend stocks. I mean, I have a little bit of my portfolio set up where I'm trying to pick something, but no, the majority of mine are in dividend stocks, dividend assets.
I try to pick growth stocks that pay dividends.
Yeah.
That's what I look for.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think if you have the best of both worlds, because those are the
Exactly.
type of companies that they're most likely to continue not only paying their dividend, but increasing their dividend.
it.
Exactly. So you get the best of both worlds.
And when you guys talk about compounding, those are the types of companies that you hold for 30, 40 years, and you had stock splits and it appreciated, you collected dividends, you had everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what people don't understand, I don't look for the big winners and I don't sell often at all. I buy it, I don't really even look at it because I know I'm in for the long term. And I think a lot of people, when they jump into the stock market at first, are like, oh, let me see what I can get and take off or going down. They get really disappointed with the market up and down. But if you're in it for the long term and you're looking at dividends, those market up and downs don't really affect you as much because you have a different mindset when you're investing.
Yeah.
You guys have very diverse backgrounds in seeing different money situations. How is it that the finance twins, the wealth twins, define wealth?
I think I define wealth by if your lifestyle and your money is managed in a way that you are overall happy, then you're wealthy to me. It doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars or a couple of 100,000. If it supports the lifestyle you want and you're happy, then that's wealth, in my opinion.
For me, I just focus on net worth. Try to keep growing in net worth. So that means getting out of debt, focusing on collecting assets and cash, and just trying to build it up. So you don't have to necessarily be a millionaire, but if you focus on your net worth, you're going to increase your wealth.
The statistics in the United States aren't that great.
No,
I think the majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck. They didn't have the manager that told them about the power of compounding. For somebody who's trying to get started, which can be kind of daunting and overwhelming, what do you suggest? Like, where do they start?
I mean, first, in terms of building wealth, the first thing I would do is get rid of consumer debt. That's the first thing that anyone can do. Just stop getting into consumer debt. Now, that means one, you might have to learn to cut some expenses if you really are using your credit card to supplement your paycheck week to week, because I know a few people like that. But the first thing I would say is try to cut that consumer debt down. Once you get out of that, then start. At the same time, I would say put a little bit away for emergency savings. After that, keep learning how to manage your money. And once you get to a point where you have at least maybe 3 months of emergency savings and no credit card debt, I would then suggest buying some dividend assets where now that you have Charles Schwab, Fidelity, you can even buy these things called stock slices. So you don't have to buy a full share of anything. So it's just getting a person involved in the market, trying to understand, I'm buying this fractional share of a company just to learn how to, get in and participate in the market. That's the first thing I would tell people. Get yourself out of consumer debt, get an emergency fund, start working with stock slices and then move up from there.
And you guys have each other as twins for like accountability, for the friendly competition. After that, like, how important is it with your spouse, like on this journey of financial independence, retire early?
I was thinking about this the other day. I know the statistics is that most marriages end because of money situations. And I think it also, when you have children, it plays a part in that too. Because when you have children, there's a different financial picture. Like before, when my husband and I were first married, we were dinks. Like we had enough money for both of us. It was great. Then you have kids and I'm like, okay, that changes. Now, not only is your financial picture changing, but your responsibilities change too. So your mother may have to take off more time from work, or like the roles shift a bit. So when you are looking for a partner, making sure that partner has the same mindset when it comes to money, like we don't get into debt. We make sure that we're doing this as a team. I think that's a huge role when it comes to building your wealth. You know?
I also think when it comes to picking a partner, you need to be on the same page. And I think Nadia and I, what we also share in common, both of our husbands are foreign. So they're foreigners. And they have a different savings mentality than most Americans. And it was very interesting to see how they dealt with things. So that actually helped us too. Having a person that was on the same page in terms of we want our finances to do this, and giving a different perspective of what it's like in another country and bringing that here. So I think if you can find someone who's on the same page with you, that's the best thing you can do. Because if not, that money trouble comes into effect, and the statistics aren't good in America in terms of divorce rates either. You know, so if you can get on the same page in terms of money, I think that's probably half the battle.
Like my husband came from France, and he's a huge cash saver. And when we got married, he had no credit score or anything. I'm like, you have to build this up. And he's like, why do I have to like get a credit card or whatever? I'm like, this is just the way it works here. You have to do this because it's like, it's going to hurt you more if you don't do it. So we finally got him to build up his credit. But that was something that, like, coming from another country, he's like, why would you even have to do that? So it's a different mindset. But as long as you have someone who's willing to do it with you and work in the right direction, you can really build your wealth quickly together.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about the cultural differences when it comes to thinking about money.
Yeah.
Nicole, is your husband Eastern European?
No, I would say you could call it Asian, maybe Middle Eastern. So he definitely likes to focus, like his family's into gold too, into buying gold. So that's something that was different to me. But yeah, it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah, I'm Chinese American. Old civilizations, we like our gold.
Yeah.
Bury it in the ground.
Exactly.
She got a ton of gold for a wedding
Right.
too. I was like, oh, I
not
benefited
not
from
a
that
ton
too.
of gold. Let's just get that
Not a ton of
straight.
gold, but I benefited too as a sister of the bride. They were giving me gold coins. I'm like, this is great. This is fantastic.
So you guys are kind of like working together as the wealth twins. To what extent do you set financial goals together versus having your own family goals? And what are these? What are the goals that you aspire to financially?
Oh boy. I don't know. What is it?
We don't set
Controlling the
our
world? Is
financial
that is that how you do it?
No, we don't set financial goals together anymore, I guess. Because we're married and we have separate families, I think we don't speak as much about our personal finances together. I guess it's more about the finances of the wealth twins. And but I guess my goal is just to be comfortable. I want to eventually move to France, retire there, and I just want to be able to like have my passive income be able to support that lifestyle and be back and forth to visit my children if they choose to stay in America.
Yeah, you know, with our husbands, it's a shame that they marry twins because we are so interlinked together.
You guys come as like a package, whether
Exactly.
it's college
it's a definite
or
package.
work or
and
beyond.
so with that, they're like, oh my gosh, not Nadia along with Nicole. I can't take it. So they've been trying to separate us, and we've been like, okay, Okay, fine. She's my twin. We'll keep things together and talk about it. But, our husbands are a different entity and we have to separate. But when it comes to our kids, I think we are on the same page. We want them to not be in debt. We want them to have money not be an issue. And I think we're planning that as we're going on our lives now. So I think that's something that we're teaching together. And definitely with Well Twins, the way we're running the company financially, we have to definitely be on the same page.
Mm-hmm. And my 8-year-old, I love it because she's already picking up and she would lecture my cafe employees like, what are you doing? Why did you buy this? Like, you just got paid yesterday. Did you need that? Like, and I'm like, Nadia, get your child. I'm like, hey, she's telling you right.
I guess that's where we are on the same page. Right now, we're focusing on generational wealth. And I think Nadia and I are on the same page with that, getting our kids to be nowhere near where we were.
I suspect your kids haven't seen some of the things that you guys saw when you were young. Do you try to educate them and give them some insight into what life was like for grandma? What do you try to teach your kids?
We do, like, just from my point of view, because my husband didn't grow up wealthy either. But it's more about teaching them how to be grateful for what they have. And they understand, like, we're able to purchase or buy them what they want, but this is not the same situation a lot of people around the world have. So more just to be considerate to others and be grateful for what you have.
I mean, for my kids, yes, I'm definitely trying to teach them. I have a 10-year-old and she's getting to that age where she's like, oh, I want this and I want that. She's always wants something. And I'm always like, no, I'm not going to give it to you. Or if you want it, you have to find a way to pay for it. And that usually changes the whole thing. Well, I don't need it right now, And I tell her, listen, what you need to learn how to do from a young age is to learn how to make decisions. And I said, the way you make decisions is understanding how much money you have and what you're going to do with that money. And if you have a limited budget, you have to make decisions. So I'm teaching her that. And I actually have them say affirmations. I am grateful for what I have and I'm happy for others. Because I definitely don't want to raise children who don't understand how fortunate they are and expect that everything is supposed to stay the same. So I want them to understand that.
Yeah, we don't want our kids to take it for granted. I mean, we try to give them different perspectives or exposure to different money situations. So even if it's volunteering at a food bank, so that they see that, there are families who don't have enough. And then the reality, I have 3 kids. So the truth is, we tell them, we're like, we can't just spend frivolously. You guys, 3 kids are expensive.
Exactly.
We have to make choices. So they understand choices. So I like asking all the inspired money guests, how do you define success?
Wow.
I define success by doing what you feel makes you happy. That's my thing. Like, I feel like I'm successful now, even though we're just starting the Wealth Twins. It's something that I feel gives me purpose right now. I'm driven to do it every day. And it was at one point in my life, I was not driven to do the work I was given, So for me, this is a success because I get to choose what I want to do with my life and I get to push forward, and that's enough motivation.
I wrote a formula for success one time, and I think for me it does stay true. It's that success for me is anything that you put discipline and you're consistent with that discipline. So whatever things I'm into, if it's going to be finance, if it's going to be, getting in shape or so, I define success as putting the discipline necessary and also the consistency behind it to make that goal actually happen.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
How do you define success?
How do I define success? I'm going to combine both of yours and cheat. I'm going to set my goals and reach my goals and be happy.
Why
there
not?
you go. Be happy on the journey and happy when you reach the goals.
I will eventually define success when I can put my 3 kids through college and not be broke.
Yeah.
And I don't.
My kids are French.
That's my biggest worry
they go to
right
France.
now.
Really?
I was talking about it a couple of days ago, saying I'm not sure how I feel if it's necessary for my kids to go to college, or I would prefer them go to the cheapest college they can go to and understand life more. So I know it could be pretty, controversial, but even though I went to Columbia and even have my graduate degree, I see the landscape changing, and I want to give my kids a different perspective on how to survive life and not just say, I got to go to college and having your job be part of a dream. You get what I'm saying? So I'm trying to shift what I'm teaching them about education.
Yeah, which is, I think that's very practical, especially given both of your experiences, because education was a way out for you.
This is true.
But you see that the world is changing and you have to adjust accordingly. Yeah, I think that to go to college and come out with $100,000 in debt or $200,000 of debt, that just doesn't seem worthwhile to me.
Yeah.
Think about it now. Our kids are like, the oldest is 10, our youngest is 3 or 4. And it's like, how much is college going to cost by the time they get there? It's probably going to be like $200,000 a semester. Like, come on. How is that going to make up? So it used to be that college was a way for you to get out, but now for some people, college is a way for you to become poor. So I think more people should share that message. There's other ways that you can do it, and you don't have to put yourself in debt for college. You can pursue alternate paths.
But if you can do it, Andy, do it. Pay for your kids so they don't get into debt because of college.
Right. Yeah, you just don't want them to have that burden.
My kids are French, so they're going to France for school. I'm not paying.
So education will be included?
Well, in France, I think the education is free, especially for
that's
college.
smart.
So like, bye, you want to go? Go to France.
Probably healthcare too.
Yes.
Now I see your long-term goal.
I think that's why she married a French guy. Does he know that?
Well, I'm French now too, so it's okay.
What's the vision with Wealth Twins? Do you view it as another potential passive income?
Yeah, truthfully, part of it, yes.
Yeah, but it's not passive. We work a lot more on Wealth Twins than I worked in the corporate world at times.
This is true.
Like we work on the weekends. So I did work on the weekends before, but it's just as much work. So I guess eventually it will reach a passive stage, but it's a lot of work, and it's something that keeps us active, keeps us in touch with people, and this makes us a service to others.
No, but I do see it as a way of passive income too. And I do like it. I like the fact that, you can actually create something and out of your mind and turn passive income from it. So I love that aspect about the business. And if it grows, that's awesome too. But I do definitely like the humanitarian or the serving aspect of it as well. So getting both of those things, I think it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I love that. You can help people be better with their money. And if it's a stream of income, not quite passive, but it's a stream of income, then it's a win-win. Well, thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Nicole, for sharing your stories and your insights and expertise with us. Can you tell the Inspired Money listeners and viewers where to follow you and to learn more?
You can find us on YouTube. You just type in Wealth Twins, or you can find us at wealthtwins.com.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Andy.
So what was your favorite Inspired Money moment? I love the idea that wealth means managing your lifestyle and finances to be happy. Keep growing your net worth, get out of debt, and grow your assets. If you had a different favorite Inspired Money moment, let me know by posting a comment below. Thank you for watching to the end. I want to invite you to subscribe to our email that goes out every 2 weeks. The Runnymede investment team highlights data, news, and events that we think are worth sharing. Subscribe at inspiredmoney.fm/newsletter. It's free and informative. Thanks for joining me on this mission. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.